In what may be one of the first cases of leaked Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 mobile processor benchmarks before Qualcomm announces its full specs list next month, a purported Galaxy S23 has made a cameo on Geekbench, processor core scores in tow. Samsung Galaxy S23 Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor benchmarks. The Galaxy S23, SMS 911U, scores on Geekbench peg the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 as an octa-core affair but with a seemingly rearranged set. Instead of one full-speed core and 4 smaller cores for the mundane tasks, like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 has one large core and 3 smaller ones, with more and faster cores in the golden middle. Being made on TSMC's 2nd Gen 4 nanometers processor node, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 can afford peak clock speeds akin to an Apple A series chipset. It hits 3.36 GHz and, consequently, some very high benchmark scores. Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor core distribution: 3 by 2.02 GHz, 4 by 2.80 GHz, 1 by 3.36 GHz. Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 versus Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 versus Apple A16 benchmark test scores. Those faster core clocks led to outstanding first Galaxy S23 benchmark of 1,524 in single core and 4,597 points in the multi-core test, respectively. For comparison, the S22 gets a tad above 1,200 and 3,200 points, respectively. Not only that, but the Galaxy S23's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 seems to also be on par with the iPhone 14's Apple A15 processor, at least in the multi-core results, despite being clocked much lower, and it only gives way to the new Apple A16 in the 14 Pro Max. Not only will the Galaxy S23's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor be very fast, now backed with leaked benchmark evidence, but Qualcomm has reportedly optimized it for efficiency as well. The 2nd Gen 4 nanometers process of the TSMC's foundries should offer Qualcomm a lot of leeway to fine-tune its power consumption while keeping the performance intact. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, codenamed Kalama, has been given the model number SM8550 and as the Geekbench readings show, its core composition paints a rather unusual picture. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 will reportedly sport one fast Cortex-X3 core that provides a 25% performance boost over the X1 in the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 models, as well as two Cortex-A715 and two Cortex-A710 lumped together in a cluster, and 3 low-key Cortex-A510 clocked, as can be seen, at a 2.02 GHz maximum. This way, Qualcomm can turn on and off cores with much more varied power draw/performance ration envelopes, depending on the task at hand, ensuring optimal battery consumption at all times. In fact, back in May, one leaker informed that the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 efficiency tests are going very well, and it has performed better than its direct predecessors in that respect, but we'll save judgment until we get our grubby mitts on a phone with Qualcomm's newest mobile flagship processor that is about to be officially unveiled in November.